So, okay, everybody, listen up. Salachi Prairie, are you here? Brian,
Yes, Brian is here. He's muted.
muted, okay. Curtin Creek, Kim
Kim is
is here too. East Fork Alliance, Jim,
here.
Allow.
Oh, there's
Hi, Brian. Voice. Okay, East Fork Rural Hills, Rob. Henny? Belida Community?
Here.
Here.
Okay, there's two of you.
3, actually.
Okay. Four Creeks, Andrew. Hearing none, Maple Tree, Jordan Johnson. Meadow Glade, here. And I am here. North Fork,
here.
North Salmon Creek. Pleasant Highlands.
Here.
And we all know Coastal's here.
We're here with Ellen as well.
Okay, Ridgefield Junction. Sherwood Hills, Vicky. Oh. Yeah, Sunnyside. Judy.
Is my mic on?
West Hazelbell, Brendan.
I'm here, Amy Hates here as well. So
Okay.
I'm here.
We see you, Amy.
All right. Early here, the sheriff is not. Julie Rawls is not. We Counselor Glenn Young
We do.
is here. Any other counselors that I'm missing and am in trouble with the county?
Yeah.
No. And is Kathleen gonna be here tonight?
I expected her, but I do not see her.
Okay,
There's actually 2 of us from Curtin Creek are here.
we have 11 leaders here, so we have a quorum.
Okay, unless, Counselor Young, do you have, anything you'd like to report to all of us?
I don't think I really have much tonight. We've just been plugging along with a lot of the same things that I've already reported on.
Okay,
Unless somebody has any questions on some of the work we've been doing, happy to answer those.
does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Counselor Young?
Unless there's any insight as far as the I-5 bridge project, as far as when they'll be breaking ground.
Oh, that's that one's way above my pay grade. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody really does. They have some tentative dates and such, but there's a lot of uncertainty right now, especially given the environment at the federal level. So nobody really knows for sure.
Do we have approved construction plans?
I don't believe so. No, they're still waiting for what they call the record of decision through the federal government. So until that happens, and then they still have to figure out funding too. I mean, last I've heard, they're expecting the costs to go even higher than they had anticipated. And so then it becomes another issue of how is it going to be funded, or, would there be reductions that have to be made? I'm speculating on all this because we're not actually one of the decision makers, so we only receive minor updates here and there. But that's the best of my knowledge at this point.
Do you even know if there's a current environmental impact statement or whether a new one needs to be generated?
Well, the DEIS was completed in its draft form, and then they had time for public comments on that. That window has closed, and I don't recall if they have issued the final draft or the final EIS, the final statement yet or not.
Okay, And Marilyn, do you have anything to report other, besides the next item on the agenda, which is from you, I presume?
I think I've got a slide for the updates.
Okay.
So I'll just do it with the slide.
And where are we with the neighborhood sign survey?
I'm going to shut it off on the 15th, and we are just hitting over 300 responses, which is pretty good for a survey. So that's good. We should be able to then proceed with ordering, letting everybody know which sign won and ordering signs.
Hey,
And let me share my screen. Since Kathleen's here. This looks daunting, but it's pretty quick. I wanted to make sure that I got exactly what I was told on a slide in writing so that I didn't have any confusion. But first, I wanted to do some just general updates. Just a reminder that I'm going to be out starting July 15th, and I'll be out of the office completely until August 13th. My phone will be forwarded to the counselor's office, to the main desk for general phone calls. My email will show out of office, and then it will have, if you've gotten my out of office message before, it has a long list of who to call. If you have this problem, call this person, so on and so forth. So it'll have a referral of who it's supposed to go to, since we don't have a receptionist in the neighborhood office. And so I wanted to ask the question, we've got June 9th and July 14th. That will happen before I leave on the 15th. But I'm not certain what you want to do on the August 11th meeting. Did you want to make that meeting, cancel it, or did you want to schedule it a week afterwards? And then it would be on,
well, after you,
The
it'll be the 18th.
it would bump to the 18th. I mean, there's a chance, we're rolling the dice though. There's a chance that I'll be released for light duty, and we could do a virtual meeting for that for August. But I don't want to schedule it and then unschedule it, because I won't be here to notify everybody. So I'd rather address it now.
I would be okay with postponing it a week if everybody else.
You'll be back in time to remind us of the change the date?
Yes. All right, so I'm just gonna scroll that down so that I make sure I get that changed. And that's gonna be dependent on also making sure that this room is available as well.
Right.
And as far as the neighborhood meetings, you guys have been busy. The May calendar is full all the way to the end of the month. June still has some openings. I don't want this to jump when I click and, oh, okay, good. June still has some openings. There's no Saturday park events currently scheduled for June. June 14th is a green bag pickup, and June 21st is booked for an emergency preparedness event in Amboy for Shalachi Prairie. And June 28th and 29th is not available. July does have room for maybe 2 more meetings if somebody's trying to jam in a meeting in July. But Saturday, the 12th is taken. Northeast Hazeldale is having a park event. And then the last 2 weeks of August tentatively have some room for scheduling. August 30th is already scheduled for the Maple Trees Saturday park event. So as it stands now, I only have 3 Saturday events. Everybody's talked about having a ice cream social or popsicle thing, popsicles in the park, but only 3 of them have been scheduled. So for those that want to get it scheduled, if you want to schedule them when I'm off and you want to reserve a park that doesn't require payment or reservations, you can go ahead and do that without me. If you want to do it without me, I'm working with Four Creeks with them possibly doing it and having a demonstration of the We Compost people coming out so that it's still an outreach event. For me to be able to waive, some of them are up to $75 for the day. For me to waive that $75 rental fee, it has to be an outreach event. So I have to schedule something for something happening. So let me know so that I can make sure I get it on the calendar. Because I'm trying to make sure I get all of this balanced and scheduled and booked.
I'm gonna put what I want on you. It's actually 7/12, not 6/12.
Oh, it is 7
But that's
12.
all right. I know what you mean. I just don't want to confuse it.
Yeah, it's underneath July, but I typed it wrong. I apologize for that. And then upcoming, I'm sure that we'll talk about it roundtable, but this Saturday is Hazeldale Parade of Bands, and so all of Hazeldale will be pretty much shut down from the morning until the afternoon for the Hazeldale Parade of Bands, and Isla will be the Grand Poobah of the parade.
Yeah.
That's not what it's called.
Marshall.
Grand Marshal. And so
She's the
Grand
one
Marshal.
I like Grand Poobah better.
I don't have a hat, so the poobah won't work.
You're a fez.
Okay, so that's pretty much all that I have on here, other than Four Creeks isn't here. They will be having a meeting May 28th. There's lots of conflict with the new management of the amphitheater. And there is a lot of problems with the traffic of what's gonna happen with that, of the traffic management plan. So we'll be hearing more about that. And if you decide you're gonna go out there, I would double check on what's going on before if you're gonna go to a concert or go to the fair. Okay, so now the complaint resolution section. Three of the active neighborhoods and 2 of the inactive neighborhoods have filed some form of a complaint about NAC leadership over the last 6 months. 2 of the most recent complaints were written formal complaints that were formally filed with the county. And those complaints were forwarded to county management. The complaints remain anonymous unless the complainants choose to release that information. That's policy. And then county management directed me to have them sent for review to human resources and legal for direction on next steps of how to handle it. What I got back from human resources and legal adds to more next steps for NAC. So I went ahead and cut and pasted what they wrote. So what they said was, after reviewing the concerns and NAC's bylaws, basically what they said was the county has no jurisdiction to be the deciding factor on somebody's complaint, anyone's complaint against NAC. Because the bylaws have the clause in there that NAC is not an agency of Clark County government. Some of the organizations, some of the commissions have things written in their bylaws so that it's set up so the county is doing that. NAC is not set up that way. And so without that language, any of the internal concerns within NAC have to be addressed by the group because they're outside of the county's scope of authority. And so the next step to that is, that NAC does have a policy in place for complaint resolution that I found that was adopted in 2009. It spells out exactly what is supposed to be done. It involves election of up to 3 volunteers for a conflict resolution committee, and they hear the complaints and they offer potential resolutions. The complaints are then brought back to the full membership at the next meeting for a hearing and discussion of a resolution so that the complainants can remain anonymous if they choose. And then that resolution that's the suggestion of the committee is put to a vote of the membership, and the majority vote determines the next step of action. And this last bullet point is exactly from the policy. It says there will be times when a resolution is not to everyone's satisfaction, but complainants and offending parties are to accept the will of NAC's majority vote as a democratic volunteer organization. So it specifically does not have the board involved in this. This would be your next step on resolving these complaints. Oops, I've got a slide for this. Next steps. So the next step is that I send these back, the 2 formal complaints that I have back to NAC that are written. The policy is clear that the process is led by the committee and not the executive board. So there needs to be a call for 2 or 3 volunteers for the conflict resolution committee. And then the volunteers have to be elected by the membership. That's what the process says in the paperwork. Then I will send the complaints to the elected members, and then they'll need to schedule a committee meeting prior to the June meeting. And that meeting will not include county staff. And the June 9th meeting, the CRC would present their recommendation, and the membership would hear it out and then would vote thumbs up or thumbs down on that they approved of that. It does not say what happens in that policy if the resolution does not pass. I would assume it goes back to the committee for them to come up with another solution, or you would discuss amendments to the solution at that meeting. As I said, it does not have that in there that it's that there'd be a split vote or a no vote. And so that would be the next steps to handle the complaints that are currently there. And so that's where we're at with the complaints.
Suggestion, would it be more advisable, just based on what you said, to have an odd number of members on that review committee so that you don't end up with deadlocks or confusion?
Probably. That's best practices is to have.
Because it said 2 or 3.
Yeah, because it said at least 3, or it said at most 3. What? Let me.
I thought it said 2 or 3.
Yeah, so 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think it says 2 or 3.
Up to 3. What are they gonna vote on?
Says up to 3.
What are they gonna take a vote on?
That way it will get resolved.
vote on
one way or
what
the
they're gonna
other
bring
at
back
that
to
level.
Okay. Would we get to know what the complaints were before a request for volunteers, or are you just volunteering into something you don't know what it is?
Well, and also, if you're a member of the neighborhood association that filed a complaint, you probably shouldn't be on the resolution committee.
Right.
Oh, well.
I mean, just
Actually, I disagree with that.
because that you would have bias going into
I
it.
disagree with that. If there's an individual from anywhere in the community that attended one of these meetings and has a complaint against any member of NAC, it doesn't matter which community they came from. Now, I would disagree. I would strongly say that the person that made the complaint shouldn't be on the committee.
I think that's supposed to be, yeah.
That's what he said,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
That's
actually, she said the neighborhood
Not, but you
association.
made the statement that if the
Okay,
neighborhood, so the complainer should not be on the committee. Agreed.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
Yes.
And so I did the roster. I don't have the full boards of everybody because I don't have Andrew's full board. I don't have Maple Tree's full board. I don't have Evie's full board listed on here, or Mark's or Vicky's, but I got, and I don't have West Hazel Dell's full board, but I have most of the boards listed on here of the main people that are on the board. And let's see, one of these was.
Are these slides on the website for people to download?
I can send them out.
That would be great.
Marilee, I have a change, that last name at number 16, Cindy Paneo is no longer there, and instead, thought I gave you the fourth person, which is I have her last name right off the top of my head, Krista. I'll send it to you tomorrow. or
Yeah,
tonight.
I'll fix it. If you send it to me tomorrow, I'll fix it, or tonight or tomorrow, I'll fix it. And so this is Sunnyside. Sunnyside Board Correction. I just wanted to get the roster up there and the names up there so that you had a list of the names that are on there.
My question though, would we know what we're volunteering for? Or, you know, if we volunteer to be on a board to look at a complaint, would we know before we volunteered what the complaint was? Or you're just volunteering into the thin air?
You're volunteering to read the complaints and do a assessment on what you think should be done to fix it.
I would think that a board like that would be selected more on people that are willing to look at conflict resolution rather than picking and choosing what complaint you're going to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, how would the substance of the complaint influence why you would be willing to hear it?
Or you might have a preconceived notion of what should be, and you're not really listening to the issues. So you might not want to volunteer.
I would say if you have that mindset, then don't volunteer, be like a jury. If you think there's some preconceived notions that you might have on any particular subject, you might want to abstain from being on the committee.
But you don't know what the subject is.
The subject is that there is a complaint against NAC. That is it.
It's a conflict resolution committee. So it's whatever the conflict is, you're working to resolve.
But if you hear the complaint and you feel that there's no way that you can, you know, arbitrate that complaint or look at the complaint, but if you have a preconceived issue with it.
And has to be excused.
Has to be excused.
Right.
And replaced. I mean, we could do a whole voir dire thing here and go through everybody, but it's, yeah, I don't know that it needs to be that complicated, but.
That's also inefficient to say the least.
In addition, we won't know what the complaint is until it's been filed, so can't prejudge anything there.
Oh, they haven't been filed yet?
Well, when a complaint gets filed, then the
filed,
committee
yeah.
goes into action.
Not filed with the committee.
Not filed with.
Us, but yeah.
So are we looking at forming the committee tonight, or what is the?
Yeah, and so that would be, someone would have to make a motion to form the committee to handle the complaints. Because as I said, this goes back to NAC to handle, to the membership of NAC to handle.
So is it the board that has to make the motion, or just anybody that?
Anybody can make the motion, and then there'd have to be a second and a vote.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we form a subcommittee or a committee to address these complaints.
I'll second that motion.
For clarification, are we talking about a separate committee for each complaint or one committee to look at all the complaints?
I would make a motion that we address all the complaints at the same time. So that it's not drug out. So yeah, so we're forming a conflict resolution committee.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what the,
I figured that's what you meant, so that's what I wrote down. So.
that's what they call it in the paperwork that was previous to me.
And second.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second for,
He just did.
Yes, we have a
Okay.
motion and a second.
okay, and all in favor?
Discussion first.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Does anybody have something they'd like to discuss? Any points to make about?
I would, Steve.
Yeah.
One is, I think there needs to be, fairly good third-party, representation on the committee. It's been stated a little bit that the complainant should not be on there, but I would prefer that it would be, neighborhoods that are separate from that, just to get as much separation as possible. I think that would be the best we can get. We may or may not have enough people that are interested in doing that, so that may not stand, but I would advocate for as much third party as possible.
Well, the only concern that I would have with that statement is that the person that is addressing the concern to NAC, it's very well possible that the person or persons that are that the issue is about could be on that committee. Now, what are we gonna do about that? See, so.
Yeah, it needs to be third party in general.
Yeah, can I respond to Kirk? I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. And then just if y'all will allow me just to eliminate some of the dancing around things, I'll just go ahead and volunteer that I am one of the people that filed a formal complaint. It's useful for me to say that because in what I'm gonna say in agreement with Kirk, I'm hoping to illustrate that there's a lot of people in this room and on that screen that were part of that complaint. So the idea that boy, that gets really tricky. And I certainly would hate to go around and point at, who I felt could, represent us as a third party. I agree with you, is what I'm saying, and I'm using, my complaint as an example, really to support that of saying that I'm not sure who all is like an official representative in the room, but we're probably pretty close to half of them are, contained within my complaint. No offense to y'all. So this is a sticky wicket, as they say somewhere else, but what a wonderful idea. I hope it works out.
Well, just as a clarification question, the conflict resolution committee, would that be just for like this event? Or would that be like, you're on the committee for the next year? Or like, I don't know, have all of the bylaws obviously in front of us. So Marilee, is it like a short term just to deal with current conflict, or is it a subcommittee that will exist?
It's not a standing, it's an ad hoc.
Yeah, from what I'm
Okay.
understanding from what this old policy is that a committee gets formed to address the complaints on the table, and then that committee goes away.
Okay.
And then if there's new complaints,
It'd be a new committee.
there's a whole
Okay.
new committee. That's what I'm understanding from this. I didn't write this, and this is 2009, so
Is
I
there,
wasn't even in communications, on the communications team during that time, so.
is there a process outlined in that for selection? Aside from people raising their hands to volunteer?
Up to 3 volunteers who've been elected by
Yeah,
NAC.
but who selects those 3?
You also volunteer.
I
What's
handed
self-selecting?
out-
7 or 8 people volunteer.
Well,
I handed out the
Up to
sheets
3,
in the
it's up
back,
to 3.
so
Yeah.
everybody should have a
Missing
copy.
my point.
Oh, yeah.
Then you would vote on who would be on the committee, I would imagine.
I'm
If 8
gonna-
people volunteered, you would vote on the whoever.
Right.
I've got some
What if-
comments on here too, but first I'm gonna pull this other document up.
To Kirk's point, what if, just to some degree, if whoever the complaints like went to for this issue, that person would then know who made the complaints, and so then they could, out of the volunteers, help select who would be appropriate to be on that committee, so that we know that the complaints aren't on there, but still allow whoever wanted to remain anonymous to remain anonymous.
Let's put this just up on the screen so I don't have to read.
Is there any reason why this can't be a standing committee? Because experience and knowledge helps an awful lot in making future resolutions.
Yeah, I would think that the objective for not making it a standing committee would be that you're not a priori anticipating that there's going to be a flood of complaints over what the NAC officers or
Not to mention,
whoever
it
else
would
is
seem to
involved.
disqualify anyone who wasn't currently qualified to be on the committee from being on future committees. A number which could get progressively smaller as
And
time
having
went
meetings,
by.
electing
One would hope
committee
so.
members, it sounds like.
So this
Sorry?
is all that I have on the process.
Yeah,
Up on
yeah.
the screen.
You'd
That's
lose your
everything I've
position on the
got.
committee if you ever had a complaint.
Well, as it stands, every time there's a complaint, you have to form a new committee, is that my understanding?
That's
Yeah.
probably,
That's
yeah.
it.
This is the first time that
That's
we've
not
done this
particularly unusual.
since 2009, so.
too, yeah.
Well, and I'm
I think
assuming
that lacks consistency.
when they're filed with the county, Marilee, does that go to you? Are you the one
Yes,
who
it goes
receives
to
those
me and then
complaints?
it went to
So
the,
you're,
then
so
it went to the county manager.
you are the one who knows who filed the complaints, who's in the complaints, all of that, like you're. And the county manager are the people who know exactly what all that is,
Yes,
correct?
and then HR and legal that reviewed them.
Okay.
Yes.
So like, the board of NAC does not know, haven't seen those complaints
No,
necessarily.
they have not.
Okay, just for clarification.
So what if we appointed a person that we think at least isn't in there to be kind of a lead, to then reach out and seek volunteers for the committee, knowing all of the details, and that way it'd be kind of third party as much as possible.
By knowing the details of the content of the complaint.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, someone who's likely not to be on that complaint, or on the complaint side, to then work with Marilee to look at the details, and then we'll look at the rosters and see about finding two other volunteers to work with that person to then to be the committee.
But.
Yeah.
But you have to vote on it here, so.
Right.
Well, we would have to
Yeah.
vote on, if we voted on the key person, and then delegate that
Yeah.
ability to that person to do that.
What about assign it to somebody that's not a neighborhood association like Merrill Lee?
I think it needs. to
I
be
am not
yeah.
not supposed to do it according to what legal came back with,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, she would be the third party.
Marilee, I have a question. That list of all the names where
Uh-huh.
all those are eligible to be on the.
All those are active, correct.
So I'm gonna look at my friend Alan Thomas over here.
And he's looking right back.
Yeah, shaking his head.
Yeah.
Are we eliminating everyone in relation to, in the neighborhood that was in relation to the complainants? Cause that's gonna reduce the number.
That would,
Yeah, greatly.
Yeah, ideally, that there would be no one on either side of this complaint would be. involved.
Adjudicating or.
Yeah, right, ideally. Again, I don't know the details, so. So I can't speak too much to that, other than what I would like to see ideally happen.
To make it the least unbiased.
Yeah,
makes
absolutely.
sense, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe a statement of participation of the volunteers. That they no longer do not have. Or they're not one of the complainants.
Oh. Yeah. But they might be a complainee or a complaint, whatever the other side is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not.
The object of one.
The object of complaint, yeah, there you
It's too complicated, but
go.
I will volunteer to be on that committee, and if they have any complaints against me, that would be really unusual. But, it could happen, but last month was the first time I ever attended in person, so, and I hardly say anything until last month, and I talked to them. But
Now, how do we know that you're not part of what's been complained about?
because I volunteered and if I would,
Yeah.
I know, but
well,
No, if you're subject to.
yeah,
Yeah,
you think somebody's complaining about me? That's
don't
what
know.
I'm saying,
We don't know.
it's unlikely.
here it was stated that the majority of the people in here might be in that complaint. So how do we know whether we are or not?
yeah.
Well, I make a motion that we accept Debbie's offer to be on that committee.
Does that really require a motion?
I don't think it does.
No.
Can we just
Yeah, I mean,
There's already a motion on the floor.
and what's stated there is three
You just
volunteers.
volunteer.
I just volunteered.
Then we find two other people and vote.
Yes,
Well,
that's
I mean,
what
it would still work, cause like what you were saying before is that Debbie then would get the complaints and then would be able to select two people completely unbiasedly, cause then she would know everybody that's on there, so that would work.
If we don't have other volunteers.
Well, and then technically, if Debbie was in one of the complaints, then she could say, okay, I
Sorry.
can't, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it just
This
kicks
is-
back to the next meeting.
This is,
Yeah.
this is a pretty small group. I don't think you're gonna find anybody that's completely unbiased. We all know each other. We have, most of
Yeah.
us for years. I
We do the
think
best
that
we
you wanna
can.
select somebody that's gonna be able to set that aside and look at the complaints
Right,
at face value and openly discuss and figure out a way to move forward rather than
right.
try to find somebody that's completely unbiased.
Why would volunteer?
There's
Okay.
two.
You gotta cut your left index finger off to do it.
Two down.
We wanted one.
I'll reluctantly volunteer. I'll be the third.
Awesome.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah. Okay,
Now, do we learn if we're in the complaint? Is that the
Yes.
next step?
yeah, that would
And
be
then
the
you would
next
have to
step.
recuse yourself.
Yeah, but not in group when you guys meet to do your.
Yeah, when you meet, you'll find out because you will see the complaint,
Okay,
complaints then. And if,
would you like me to read the motion again and?
yeah, read the
Okay, the
motion
motion
again.
was made to, to form the conflict resolution committee to address not all complaints, but the specific complaints that have been filed and talked about, and that's paraphrasing. I hope I'm not ruining it too much for you here, but. And we have three volunteers, Debbie Throop, Briggs Franklin, and Evie Ring have volunteered to be on that committee.
No S in break.
Could I
I'm
suggest,
sorry,
you-
I was going by what she wrote down.
could I suggest that you include in there complaints specifically to NAC? Or about NAC? This could go on an item.
Long time. Okay, so that's the motion. And it's gotten a little complex,
second the
but we
motion.
got motion to form the committee and the membership of the committee all in one. And so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Carries unanimously. So what is their next step? What are the volunteers' next step? Contact you?
Schedule a meeting and contact me and I'll get the stuff out to you. Actually, I can just email it to everyone.
That would probably save some time.
So the committee members need to have each other's communication.
Right.
And yeah, and then if I do the email to all three of you, then you'll have each other's emails that way.
Okay.
Stephen, can I say something? This is kind of nitpicking. But when you make a motion, you don't say the words, I make a motion. You say the words that are on the Robert rules here. You say the words, I move to adjourn, I move to recess, I move to lay the question on the table. They're all in here, so I know people have been saying this at this meeting and every meeting I go to, saying, I make a motion. Yes, but you say, I move to.
Because it's action.
Yeah, sure.
I don't agree, it's on you too.
Good point.
I get guilty.
Thank
of it
you,
once in a
Judy.
while, too. Okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
Okay, so. That agenda item is now disposed of. Kirk has a statement, excuse me, he'd like to make about the proposed charter.
Sure. So, John, you were very bold in your speech at the March meeting, and I trust you'll be able to receive a bold yet accurate rebuttal to that. So first, I have a question for you, Brendan and Amy. Are you agents of the county, and were you tasked by the county to propose this charter? If not, then I'm surprised because it says you closed it with, this charter is presented by the county at the 2025 NACCC meeting. I'm surprised at that. Why would you think that you could do that on behalf of the county, especially realizing that we're not a county
Agency.
at all? So, you know, it's fraud to present something as coming from the county when that was not the case, or assumedly not the case. And so that's troubling to me. It's also very strange to me that the county lawyers didn't have a problem with that as well. So I'm just baffled by that piece.
Is this a rhetorical question or did you want an answer?
Sure, it's a legitimate question.
Answer. It feels to me like a clerical error. It seems in pretty bad faith that you would approach it in the way that you're approaching it at the moment.
Well, that was supposedly presented by you guys as your charter, and so how that could get put in there seems pretty strange to me. I mean, it could have been just a totally offhanded thing, but I don't know how that would happen.
So to be clear, Kirk, you're accusing me of fraud.
Well, it's what it looks like if you're doing that, presenting it on behalf of the county. If you're not doing that, then that's fine. You can just tell me, no, absolutely not. We don't know how that got in there,
So
which is strange.
is the secretary gonna know that Kirk is accusing myself and Amy Hay of committing fraud?
Well, I'm asking the question, is what I asked.
I think it's important. Well, I answered the question. I said that sounds like a clerical error and it's in pretty bad faith for you to be presenting for.
So it was a question. It was a question about that.
That's a very revealing question though, Kirk. I appreciate that. So my question to you is, it's a yes or no question. I'm not using it to make a statement of any kind. Are you accusing me of committing fraud?
I'm asking the
Can
question.
I interrupt here just for a second, just so that everybody in this room understands that this meeting is being recorded?
Yeah, that's fantastic, because I really would very much love a record clearly of what you're saying right
I'm
now.
asking why you put the county in there as part of your presentation to us as a proposal to us on behalf of the county.
Okay.
I think at bottom, if I can just interrupt for 1 second, just my perception of a point of clarification here is Kirk is asking on whose behalf this charter was presented to the group.
On our behalf in cooperation with the Valida Community Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
And my follow-up is why you would put in there that it was by the county.
My answer remains the same, Kirk.
Okay.
That's a clerical error.
Okay,
I
that's
apologize
fair.
for the great inconvenience it caused you.
Yeah, that was a pretty substantial.
Yeah, I imagine.
So, second, I'm surprised that the document continues and says where the charter name change was approved by a majority vote. If you're familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, it specifies a 2/3 vote of the body to amend or replace bylaws. To ignore and propose a simple majority vote is blatantly out of order. It also violates the spirit of Robert's rules that governing bylaws should require a high standard of agreement to be changed, hence the 2/3 requirements. Also trying to push them through with a simple majority vote flies in the face of what you claim you want, which is a more engaged, transparent, effective NAC. How is a simple majority vote going to assure a high level of agreement in how this organization operates? It won't, in my opinion. And if I believe our current bylaws were passed unanimously after 3 months of refinement and debate, which represents this body more accurately. Next, the 3 signers promoting the new charter asked for feedback and any questions they had. My board spent a considerable amount of time reviewing the proposed charter and composed a letter with feedback and questions that was emailed to all neighborhood associations, including the 3 people on April 11th, over a month ago. We've not received any response to that letter, none. It is easy to conclude that there may not really be interested in discussing the issues and answering questions. It is also in clear disregard of their stated objective to, quote, increasing and allowing fair participation from all neighborhood associations, when only 2 neighborhood associations had input into creating it and trying to pass it with a simple majority. Next, I thought, well, they seem pretty passionate and committed to all these changes. Let's see how they implement it in their own neighborhood bylaws. So I went and read the bylaws for both of their neighborhood associations. What did I find? I was gobsmacked. Neither Florida nor West Haydale has bylaws that look anything like the proposed charter. Nothing, nada, zero, zip, zilch. Florida bylaws are very heavily reliant on a board-led association. If you believe all the things that you said are important for us, I find it strange that you don't hold them in your own bylaws. For example, Article 6. The association officers have authority to approve expenditure of funds by majority vote. Members have no say. Article 8, Section 2, the officers shall preside over all meetings, planning sessions, and activities of the FCNA. Articles 8, Section 3, the officers may choose to appoint more members as needed. The body doesn't get a say to that? Nope. Article 9, Section 5, 2, the board shall appoint members and establish committees. Again, nothing about the members. West Haydale's bylaws also put virtually all power in the board. Article 9, Section 3, officers may choose to appoint members. Article 12, Section 2, the board may declare a board member seat vacant. Article 12, Section 3, non-compliance of Section 8.5 is cause for immediate removal from the board, yet Section 8.5 states that the quorum for an association meeting shall be those members present, so long as notice has been given a duly meeting. So again, there's nothing there about being able to get rid of that board member. In the event of a vacancy, the board shall fill the vacancy by appointment from existing board members, or if none are available, by volunteer residents they can appoint and will serve until the election. So I don't want you to get lost in the minutia of what a board can or cannot do. Notice that they both have boards to facilitate their own neighborhood associations while wanting to abolish NACCC board. This all begs the question, why don't you operate your own neighborhood associations the way that you're trying to force NACCC to operate? You're all up in arms and claim that members have no say, which is completely false, by the way. And yet you're ruling over your own neighborhoods with an all-powerful board, way more powerful than NACCC's board. That's very, very troubling to me. It seems like there's a huge disconnect in what you want to force on us while you're unwilling to live under the same rules for your own neighborhood associations. So I'm going to strongly suggest that you first amend your own neighborhood bylaws as a pilot for at least a year and run your neighborhoods under the plan you're wanting us to adopt and see just how well it works. I have my doubts, but if you do find that it works, great. Then you can bring the idea back to this body. But to tell us that we're doing things wrong and need to change and implement your plan when you haven't implemented at least a little bit of it in your own neighborhoods to see if it even works is mind-numbing to me and infuriating. Because of the above, along with the items listed in the rebuttal letter that I sent out last month that received no response at all, plus the fact that there are many, many more issues with the charter that I and others have not yet brought forward, and the fact that it'll take at least the next 3 to 6 months for NACCC meetings to debate and sort out those issues. Therefore, I move to postpone indefinitely the motion to adopt the proposed charter so we can get back to regular business.
I second the motion.
We have a vote on the motion. The motion is to indefinitely
have discussion before.
Yeah.
I'd say we debate first on this.
Okay.
Okay,
I'd like to speak if I can. I just need 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Little clarification.
Sure.
The Philida Community Neighborhood Association is not NACCC. Our bylaws were adopted unanimously by our people, by our constituents, and they were okay with it. So if we need to change those, that's okay. And we will allow our community to do that. But this is a very different thing, you know? So my name is Doug Morrison, by the way. I'm co-vice president of the Florida Community Neighborhood Association. I'd like to introduce myself to Clark County Neighborhood Association leaders in attendance here tonight. I specifically phrase my introduction that way to emphasize that NACCC was originally created to serve as a conduit for neighborhood association leaders to exchange ideas and information as a way to both strengthen not just their own individual neighborhood associations, but as a way to both but as a way to create alliances between neighborhoods themselves. Now, I have gotten zero outreach from NACCC And I'm sure that West Hazeldale feels the same way, and a bunch of other neighborhood associations that are not even in attendance here tonight. Good luck with that outreach, right? After attending several NAC meetings over the last few months, NAC appears to have become the antithesis of its intended purpose. This proposal is not intended to introduce change for the sake of change. Rather, it is a call for realignment. The current board has drifted away from the original goals, purpose, and mission of the Neighborhood Association Council of Clark County as it was founded in 1997. We are not here to dismantle what once was. We are here to reinitiate and reestablish NAC in alignment with the values and intentions upon which it was founded. This is a return to purpose, not a departure from it. In essence, this chaotic and exclusive leadership style of the current NAC board does not serve to better our community at all. We can do better. Voting to approve these bylaws we have put forth can always be altered and changed for the betterment of neighborhood associations. What we have put forth will create a strong alliance between all active neighborhood associations and open up the door for real change discussions for all associations, not just a chosen few. I appreciate your time, and voting yes on this motion will just make us all better off. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? Because so I've been part of NAC now for about 2 years, and I'm trying to understand this whole understanding on where do you think the board is overreaching, I guess, because I do reach out to my neighborhood. Deb and I are conversations we have quite often on how can we work together. She's just right across the street from me. What can we do together to work together to understand this? I have never felt any pressure from the board or anyone there on anything except what can I do better in my neighborhood to bring to my neighborhood. I have meetings with my officers, but I also have meetings with my the people in and that I represent. So now again, not everyone always shows up, but I try to do my best to have communication with everybody to understand things. So I'm trying to understand where you guys are feeling that NAC is and I'm talking about the board, is overstepping.
You're kind of putting words in my mouth with the overstepping, and I'm sorry. You're wrong. I'm not saying that exactly at all. In fact, I just don't think that NAC is a very welcoming committee or association when it comes to new members or anything. And I'm not the only one that feels this way, and we're not the only association that feels this way as well. You know, this is outreach. We have not been reached out to at all. In fact, when I walk into a NAC meeting, no one looks at me that's I've never ever spoken. And it's not the way to lead something. Come on, guys, we can do better. This is ridiculous.
Well, I've been to the last 5 meetings and and again, I'm sorry, I'm not there in person, but Brig is, and I don't know if I've seen you, Doug, so I'm sorry.
Oh, I've been to 2 meetings and 3 virtuals.
Okay, so I just it's really hard to see in Zoom, as you know. But I do try to reach out to everybody, and I don't know about NAC as the board members. I see them more as a facilitator to work with Mary Lee on setting up these meetings that we're having here. That's how I see them. And then we come together and then we discuss what our neighborhood issues are. And I've seen that over and over through the past 2 years, where if there's an issue in the neighborhood, we try to bring it, especially if we can't resolve it within ourselves. So that's the way I see it. So maybe I don't know, am I seeing it incorrectly? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Well, maybe we should go back to 1997 and see what it's really all about, what its intended purpose is. Because it's
why do we have to go to 1997? You see,
because that is when when this
we
was
look at
founded.
2009 that we just got done reading, that has no clarification on how to deal with anything. I mean, we could go back a long ways on a lot of things. I'm just trying to understand. Again, I'm trying to understand, where do you think, so you wanted them to greet you? Is that why you're upset, or do you want them?
There's so many other things that NAC could be doing
Okay,
better.
please.
And that's just one of those things, and we've also put that forth. So I'm going to allow some other folks to speak, not just you and I, because there are probably a lot of other people that have a lot more important things to say than me. You know, I'm just here working hard for Philida, and I'm also here working hard to make sure that we can talk to people like you, Kim, and maybe better our neighborhood association by having contact with you. And this is helping right now, this communication we're having. That's great. But at the same time, you seem a little confused about what NAC's purpose actually is. And maybe we should review that and go over it and come back next month and figure it out, right?
Right. And I think a discussion is the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the only thing with that is that NAC has demonstrated an ineptitude that is absolutely profound. Their own bylaws took them 6 months as they nitpick word for word to come up with a bylaw that is completely inaccurate and just left up to, well, I think this is what was originally meant. Even our own bylaws that were voted on by our neighborhood is always able to be amended as the situation changes. NAC, going away from its original purpose, and just given what the board is currently morphed this institution into, is another neighborhood association. So why, Kurt, you would think that a neighborhood association's bylaws have anything to do with NAC is beyond me. NAC's purpose is to get everybody together, board members, not just anybody that wants to attend, by giving people that do not represent their community in any way, are only here for their own personal interests, to give them the floor is ridiculous. This is the place for board members, period, of neighborhood associations to come together and figure out what is best practices. Why do you have a large attendance and I only a few? What are you doing to get people to come? That is what the purpose of NAC is. But you have opened NAC to the entire county, and you are trying to generate and have done so, making this a Clark County neighborhood association. And that's where you're just dug in and you're unwilling to go back to its root purpose. And Kurt, for you to nitpick over these bylaws and to present them in a way that is not what was intended shows some ill will on your part.
It's not ill will, it's accurate.
It's actually not.
If you go back to the original bylaws in 1996, doesn't say anything about only neighborhood association board members being able to speak or address the group or have any say in what goes on. The organization was set up originally to provide conduit of information between the county government, the county departments, and the neighborhood associations.
That's it. And
It doesn't, wait, it doesn't say anything
Just 'cause it
about
doesn't say
restricting
anything.
communication to one person per neighborhood association.
That was its purpose.
Then we wouldn't have had Doug to speak tonight if that was the case.
Right.
Say what?
We wouldn't have had Doug to be able to speak tonight if that was the
He
case.
is a board member of a neighborhood
Not if we only have
association.
one per thing, like you're
No.
saying.
No, see, that's your. It's childlike what you're trying to do here. And that's where I would like to make a motion.
So we have a motion on the floor.
Do you,
So
what is
that's
that
not-
motion?
We're
Motion
discussing
is
a
to
motion.
postpone.
Okay, so let's have a vote.
We're not ready for a vote.
How much more are you gonna drag this out?
Can I just say one more thing? Because I think this is pertinent, so you guys understand this. I didn't know anything about the neighborhood associations 3 years ago. I really didn't until I started having issues in my own neighborhood. And I realized that there was a neighborhood association here in Clark County. And what I did at that time, and I was happy that I was able to, because I think the whole reason why we have this Zoom is I was able to attend and listen to the neighborhood issues. And I enjoyed that. I wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to make a vote, of course, but I was able to listen and understand what was going on. It made me feel a little bit better about being part of the community, okay? So I don't want that to go away. I want people to come in and be able to see what our neighborhoods are doing. I think that's important. So are we trying to take that away? Is that what I'm understanding? Or is that still going to be there?
They would like to speak.
Alan,
What I see here, and this is only my fourth meeting, we have two governing documents here. And if Elida and Hazeldale want change, what I would have liked to have seen is this document that's succinct, that shows this is the current bylaws, this is the proposal, and why the proposal remedies the current ones. And I don't even know exactly what you guys are fighting over.
Well, stay tuned.
Exactly.
May I respond to?
Well, should I have to, I mean, is that an unreasonable request to have a document that simply points out the differences in the two documents and what the proposed change to convince the others what it remedies?
I think that that's a fantastic question, Alan. There have been a variety of questions asked of me in the last 15 minutes. Can I start with some of the earlier ones before I make my way to the latest?
Sure.
I have your permission to speak
Wait a
to
minute,
what.
You don't need my permission.
Well, I mean it in a informal sense. Will you, in good faith, accept?
There's been a lot of loaded language.
There's a lot of interrupting. It's very difficult to be able to finish a sentence
Okay,
in
since
this room.
it seems like you have a lot you want to say, let's let Debbie, who hasn't said much of anything yet, make her statement or ask her questions.
I personally would like to see this group have more interactions with new members. I've been a member now for 2.5 years. Kat and Cheryl reached out to me saying, hey, do you know anything about MailChimp? Do you know anything about Canva? Do you know anything about anything? Let's get together. And that's how I got started. Nobody, they were, I don't know if they still are or not. That they were, but nobody reached out from the board to say, hey, do you have any questions? Mary Lee, when we first started, she reached out to me and had this little thing. And then about a year ago, she said we were going to do this resource pamphlet. So it's going to be, I have all this great information, all these resources that new members are going to have or old members. And she's so busy. I would like to see the board put that together, or a committee, a subcommittee to put all the resources together so new members can say, hey, this works and this doesn't work. And, you can reach out to this person for this. Maybe even have some background information of each board member. I don't know. Not necessarily NAC board members, but, the neighborhood association say, hey, this person's an engineer. He does something with roads, he can come and look at it and tell you who in the county can address this or whatever. I feel like I need resources more than I need this meeting. To get.
Well, the one thing I would like to say
Yeah.
in response to that is I remember having a few phone calls with you when I asked you specifically those questions. I didn't find out who you were until I got to the point of wanting to transfer the neighborhood association's bank account to you.
Right. You did,
Okay.
yeah.
And we had a couple of conversations along those very lines.
And I believe we had coffee together and you and I worked.
Yeah, you and I did, but you asked me to be on your board, so. You found out I wasn't.
On my board.
But
So you and I have had these discussions. I mean, I tried to help you in the beginning, and I agree with you, Deb. I think there needs to be more for new members. I do feel like when you're a new person in a neighborhood, you don't know what to do. And Marilee is so busy. So you have to try to figure it out yourself, right? I mean, you and I both have known that. We have to okay, how do we get a hold of our people? How do we, talk to people? How do we share our information with our neighborhoods? I agree. I think it's very difficult as a new neighborhood person.
You had,
Oh, you got one.
I'd like to hear from him.
I'm sorry. Judy, sorry.
Just a quick thing, in regards to what you were just talking about, I liked one thing that was in this new charter idea about having an orientation meeting. Voting rights are earned by attending one orientation meeting. I think we need to make sure that new people do have an orientation of some sort. And it doesn't even have to be in the charter or in the bylaws. It's just something that's that would be very helpful and very necessary to get a group going, because we do have so many groups of neighborhood associations that do not choose to or are not organized and could use some help. That's all.
What's the attendance, Marilee, been like over the last couple years? Has it been on an average
Attendance
10
here,
10
attendance
people?
here.
Yeah, at NAC.
We used to sit around 2 tables.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's also been numerous neighborhood associations added in the last 2 years. Or the
Yeah,
last
that's-
probably 3 years.
Yeah, that's true too.
And some of
I know. Yes?
I agree with Kim, and I agree with Debbie. I agree with a lot of what Doug had to say as well. Very briefly, I won't spend forever speaking, but because Kirk asked some questions I think are really salient. Why have I offered up a draft, a jumping off point for bylaws for an organization that doesn't mirror those of my own? Because my organization has potentially 20,000 people. Now, are all of them going to come to a meeting? No. But I've had 60 people at a meeting. I hope to have many more. It would be too difficult to run that organization in the same fashion as it would be to run an organization like this, which at this moment in time, at most has 17 million members. They're two different things, so that's why the bylaws are different. I applaud you for finding fault in our bylaws. Those are bylaws that were adapted by our previous board. And as everyone knows, Isla, who was also previously on the board of this organization. So no surprise that I find flaws in multiple organizations and bylaws which she had a hand in crafting. And we are actually in the process of rewriting those bylaws. We haven't even had enough meetings to actually have a vote on bylaws yet, like just because of the way the bylaws are, we have to work within them. So, but I really appreciate what you said. I will also, just as a little bit of a dig at fairness here, is that most of the neighborhood associations that participate in NAC have very similar bylaws. These were adopted. These were like a template that our previous board didn't even look over. In fact, I had a hand in drafting new bylaws for our association before our previous board took it over. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. I'm not really prepared to debate everything that you had to say. As far as reasons, Alan, and explanations of things, I would love to provide those to you. When we reached out to every active neighborhood association, we invited you all to get in touch with us.
Which is what we did.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
We never got anything back.
Well, we were hoping we could respond to those things at this meeting. The only thing I want to speak to right now, because there's so many, like I said, so many questions have been asked of me. If anybody wants to email me and ask me those questions, I would really be happy to take the time to respond to those questions. I have a feeling that there is neither time nor temperament in this room to hear me respond to all of them individually. I just wanted to speak though to what Kim and Debbie were talking about and what Doug mentioned as well, which is inviting new voices in and supporting new members. I'm pretty sure I'm in the running for the newest member. There might be one other. Yeah, so there you go. So we're the newest. I don't know how much orientation you've received or how much introduction or welcome you've received. I've received 3 communications from board members of NAC since I became president of the West Hazelville Neighborhood Association in November of last year. 3 emails I've received. The first came from the former secretary, and the substance of it entirely was to tell me that I needed to get the email address that's been kept by my former president of my association, or I would not receive communications from NAC. I told her that my president wouldn't give me that email address. She decided to keep it and continue to use it, and I was not going to have access to it. I got no response from that, and from that moment forward, received no communications from NAC whatsoever or from the NAC secretary. Now, that person is not here to defend themselves, so I want to say that, I want that to be known. The other 2 communications I received from members of NAC's board were not to welcome me to NAC. They were not to congratulate me on becoming a neighborhood association president. They were not to offer me guidance or support, or orient me to the business of NAC. The 2 communications, you know, as you pointed out, Kirk, were to tell me what was wrong with the proposal that I helped put forward. And they were very detailed in their criticisms, and I appreciate them very much. I've received no welcome. No one's ever come up and introduced themselves to me. I cut you a little slack, Kirk, because we had dinner across from each other. So that, you know, that kind of worked, but I don't totally count that. A lot of you weren't there. You've never walked up, shaking my hand, bumped elbows. My neighboring neighborhood associations have never reached out to me. The chair of NAC has never reached out to me. Nobody has ever wanted to bring me in and to make me part of this organization. What I have experienced, and I know members of my board, and I know other neighborhood association board members have experienced, is disrespect, condescension, hostility. We've been told that we don't understand what's happening around us. We've been told we don't have enough experience with community organizing. We've been told that we aren't articulate enough, or we haven't refined our ideas well enough to bring them before the group. We've been told that the board has discussed many of these things before and doesn't want to discuss them again. We've been told, somewhat astoundingly, that we do not know the best way to attract fresh voices to this organization. We've been told that we didn't use the right words in our proposals, or that we didn't use certain words enough times. We've been told that we didn't ask in the right way, and therefore we don't deserve to be heard. We've had our motions ignored by the chair. We've sat here while he allowed members and non-members to speak against us without affording us the same opportunity, although I do appreciate you've afforded me that opportunity this evening. We've spoken with others who say they too have been bullied. That's a quote. Treated with contempt and chased away from this room. When people have left this organization after negative experiences with the board, as our neighborhood association is on the verge of doing, they were not reached out to by the board to understand why they left and what could bring them back. We've been told by this board, or at least two members, the only 2 of 3 members of the board who can actually vote, that they will unequivocally vote against our proposal without doing what they have said we didn't do, which is speaking to other associations, without offering constructive ideas, without at least attempting to work with us or work with others. They've told us even today that they've talked about bylaws and structure as much as they're willing, and they won't do it again. They've disparaged us behind our backs and listed others to attack us, to demean us, to work against our success. Every month I leave this meeting with a fresh litany of objections to the board's behavior. I have drafted a dozen versions of this statement, never settling on one, because before I can even make it at a meeting, something else occurs that goes on the list. It appears to me, I want to give you some credit here, that at their last board meeting, they discussed a strategy to deny every NAC member the right to vote on whether this behavior should continue. They've made plans to say that we're disruptive so they can halt discussion, which they've done here. Failing that, they plan to claim we didn't make our motion in the correct way. And I only know this, or can surmise this, because of the meeting notes that we insisted they provide. Even leaving as much substance as they could out of their notes, the hostility towards the rest of us is evident. I couldn't help but notice there was no discussion of considering our ideas or considering the opinions of the rest of us, considering that they might be valid, asking other neighborhood associations what they might want from that. It's petty and it's petulant and it's beneath me, and frankly,
Excuse me, somebody else says something.
I think it's beneath you. I'm speaking, sir. I think it's beneath all of us. Because of a small group of egoists, we are unable to access the benefits that the county provides without constraint. By nature of being an elected leader of your association and the sole representative, you are a member of NAC. There are no other requirements. Yet the chair, not a member himself, decides how and when and if you may participate. The board's already decided to vote no. So there really isn't much point in saying anything else. They won't consider our arguments. They won't give us their respect of seeking to understand us. They don't seem to be willing to compromise. This is probably going to be the end of West Hazeldale's participation in NAC, as we find no value in this organization, as I believe the majority of neighborhood associations feel as well. I'm not answering any more questions tonight, sir. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was curious whether when we are talking about the board, is that the president, the vice president, and the secretary board, is the three members? I haven't noticed the board controlling very much at these
No.
meetings. So I'm not understanding your concern with the board. And, you know, I've been here, I guess I've been to 4 or 5 meetings now. And I haven't seen any of the things that you're talking about. So there must be some secret communication going on between the board and you that isn't in this room.
Well, if it's true that your powers of observation are infallible, then I must either be imagining this pattern of disrespect, or you're correct and there must be some secret communication occurring.
But unfortunately, there's a few other neighborhood associations other than Philida and West Hazeldale that concur with his statements.
That the board is doing negative things for the membership here.
The board is not acting for the good of the neighborhood associations in which they are supposed to represent.
So maybe we need to elect a new board.
Can we go ahead and move forward to the motion, and that was second?
The current motion you
The
want.
current
to do again?
motion. Move to postpone indefinitely the motion to adopt the proposed charter so that we can get back to regular business. That is the current motion under consideration.
Does anybody else have any additional discussion points to make it?
Do we have anyone online that's trying?
I don't see anybody.
Okay.
Let's make sure.
Yeah. Oh.
No?
Well, I have lots to say, but I'm still really confused, I have to say, because I agree with Brig and his conversation is I don't see it either. I've tried. And as far as the gentleman from West Hazeldale, you know, I had the Christmas party at my house trying to bring people together and communicate and get to know each other personally. I think that's what we need to do to communicate, to be effective team leaders or community leaders. I really do. I'd like to see more of it. I keep saying that over and over again. I hate to see us argue about it. I think better discussions would be better. And would resolve more issues if we had good discussion. And right now I feel that we have I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of tension. And I believe when I spoke to, is it John, I told him the same thing and he thought it was weird, but I don't think I'm the only one that felt that. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
The motion is to
Postpone.
Postpone
Indefinitely.
indefinitely. And
Which means it can come back later, but
yeah,
it deals with it for now so that we can get back to regular order. And if there's individual bylaws, things that want to be amended, that's always an option, always an option. We did it here earlier this year, so.
yeah. My
Want to do
friend,
this by roll?
yeah, exactly. That's
Okay.
what I was going to ask for.
I will start with Salachi Prairie, Brian Rowe. I'm assuming that if you vote in favor, that the motion passes. If you are opposed, the motion fails. So Salachi Prairie, how do you vote?
Motion is to defer all of this.
Postpone indefinitely the motion to adopt the proposed charter so that we can get back to regular business. Is that a
Yeah.
motion?
I would postpone that. I don't know what's going on there, but we don't, in Slashy, we don't want to get in the middle of a bar fight here. And anyway,
Simple yes or no, sir.
yeah, just yeah, table it. Table
So
it.
you are in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Table
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Okay, Curtin Creek, Kim.
Boy, tough one. I just wanted to have discussions and be civil. Again, my vote, okay, so let me understand this. If I table it or we pass it, is that the two choices I have here?
If you vote in favor, we postpone indefinitely the motion to adopt the charter.
Okay.
What happens after that is not contained in the motion.
Okay, I vote yes then.
Okay, East Fork Alliance.
In favor.
Valida Community.
Oppose.
Meadow Glade.
In favor.
Northeast Hazeldale votes in favor. North Fork.
Yes.
Pleasant Highlands.
Opposed.
Grobstoll.
Favor.
Sunnyside.
In favor.
And West Hazeldale.
Opposed.
Have I missed anybody? According to my list, I got everybody. Is there anybody that feels that they should have voted and was not called on? Okay, the votes are 8-3, 8 in favor, 3 opposed, and so the motion carries.
Again, I would like to reinstate that anything is open on the table too, as well, for changes if there's issues. But let's start with small issues and do one at a time if there's something that needs changed in the current bylaws.
My first change would be, I call for a vote of no confidence in the current chair.
You're making that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Point of order. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
For a vote of no confidence that requires certain things to happen. First, it should be considered as a last resort and after attempts to address the issues have failed. And the individual in question needs to be notified about the motion of no confidence prior to either of those things happen. Does it happen? Clearly.
Mary Lee, can you
The other thing,
verify?
so I have our bylaws here, and they don't state that. I will tell you the other part. If you had bylaws that perhaps they would define the procedure to remove the chair. Without them, you must refer to Robert's Rules of Order and revised edition 12, chapter XX, disciplinary procedures. You will see that it is no small matter to remove a chair. It takes a trial if you don't have bylaws. Now, bylaws can be changed.
Yeah, well, in
Bylaws
Steve's
can be
own
changed.
words at one of the last meeting is that the Robert's Rules of Order are a guideline.
Sure.
Only. So once again, I call for a vote of no confidence against the current chair.
And against the current chair.
I would just say that that's out of order. Because of Robert's Rules of Order, which is
a guideline as stated by the chair.
Which is a guideline to help facilitate meetings, which is what we're wanting to do.
We're in the process of researching.
If I may, another piece of that is a vote of no confidence is not a vote to remove a person from a position. Does not include any rule. Robert's Rules does not including a rule that allows a voter is to remove an individual from the position. In fact, Robert's rules does not even include the term no confidence vote. So there is no, it says, quote, there is no direct effect of a vote of no confidence. Does not remove an officer from office. It is only advisory, it is only a statement that's made. Anyway.
We have a motion, but I have not heard a second yet.
I thought we were waiting for clarification on what Kirk's saying.
I think we can,
What I'm finding when I, when I look it up is mostly the same thing, but it has a little bit of a difference. It is stating that before initiating the vote of no confidence, it's best practice to attempt to resolve the issues with the chair directly. Then, if the attempts to resolve the issues fail, a member can make a main motion expressing the assembly's lack of confidence. The motion should be clearly and specifically stated. And then it has to be seconded. Then the motion is open for debate. And after the debate, the assembly votes on the motion, requires a majority for it to pass. But even if it's passed, it does not automatically remove the chair from their position. The primary purpose of this vote is to express the assembly's sentiment and dissatisfaction with the chair's performance. To remove the chair, the assembly would need to follow the procedures outlined in its bylaws or constitution for removal, which may involve a separate motion and voting process. A motion to censure may be considered as a more effective alternative as it allows for the specific identification of inappropriate conduct.
Point of information.
Yeah,
It is 7:57, 6 or 7.
That's right.
We have 4 or 5 minutes left to go. This obviously would need to have some debate on it. And I would be surprised if we could complete that in that short a time.
Can I provisionally second that motion? I don't want to get in trouble
I
with
don't
Kirk
know that
later
there's,
if I'm not
I don't know
allowed
that there's any problem with you seconding the
to. Okay,
motion.
all right, then I'll
If
second.
it turns out to be out of order, which it does not appear to be, then that would kill it anyway.
So you're promising me I won't be in trouble? I second the motion. You won't accuse me of
I
fraud,
tend
right?
not to make those kind of promises about
I won't
getting
either.
somebody in trouble,
Yeah.
but I don't see an issue with. you
Okay, all right,
seconding it.
yeah,
So,
I was trying.
okay, just
Yeah,
for the
he's
sake
Trying
of
to
my
help a
minutes, it
brother
has
out
been
here.
made and seconded to have a vote of no confidence against the current chair.
I just wanted, part of the discussion is that we formed a committee earlier to address the issues that we don't know about yet. That I would think that we'd want this committee to at least meet and report back to see if there's can be a resolution.
okay.
That's what I was.
We have a
gonna say.
motion on the floor that.
Right.
So I don't know,
You call for vote, if there's no other
Call for a
discussion.
vote.
that
Okay,
is the
yeah.
chair's
Please
prerogative.
do a roll call.
Okay. If
The
you,
motion is to,
the motion is to have a vote, this is for a vote of no confidence against the current chair of NAC. And an in favor vote or yes would be yes or no confidence, and opposed or no vote would be the opposite.
No confidence does not mean the person is removed.
That's right.
No, I think, yeah, we've established that this is not to remove him from office. This is simply to the group to express no confidence in the chair. So, in light of the time, Salachi Prairie,
I don't know if he's,
He's still on there, but he's muted and, oh,
okay, I can get back to him. Curtin Creek,
Hard
Yeah.
one, but yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. East Fork Alliance? Yes. Philida Community?
Yes.
Okay, do we have Salachi Prairie back? No, we don't. Okay. Philida Community? Did I just call you?
You just called.
Okay, I don't want to double up. Sorry, I got lost. Meadow Glade?
Oh.
What are they?
Stand by, they want you to vote on.
Oh, there's Brian.
Okay.
What is it?
Prairie, have you been listening to the discussion? We are voting on a vote of no confidence in the chair of NAC.
You're muted, Brian.
Muted.
You're muted, yeah.
Okay. Are you there?
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm not for that right now. I don't know what you got going on there, but
Okay, so you are opposed to a vote of no confidence?
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
now I want to make sure I'm back in my place. Five. Hazeldale votes no. Northeast Hazeldale, to be specific. North Fork?
No.
Pleasant Highlands?
I don't know.
Are you abstaining or?
I wanna see what this is about first before I.
It's two different issues.
I know. I guess, just from what I've heard from others, yes, I will vote yes.
Probstow?
No.
Sunnyside?
No.
West Hazeldale?
Yes.
Have I left anybody out by jumping back and forth that is supposed to vote? I have 11 votes, and that should be the number of people that voted, and we have in favor 5, opposed 6. So the motion fails.
Okay, yes. Do I hear a motion to adjourn since we run out of time?
So moved.
Yes.
Can we at least touch base of what the next meeting's going to be?
Please. Sorry about that.
Just so that we have some clarification of what's gonna happen. So there'll be a report back from the group about the complaint. And then do you want to just continue discussion on purpose of NAC and have a roundtable? Is that what we want to do before the next meeting? It sounds like we need to have some more open discussion.
Yeah.
Open discussion.
And so leave it open and have the report.
Open discussion.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I have that clear before we leave so that I can make plans on time.
Consensus?
Is there a consensus of the group to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
So report from the conflict resolution committee and then discussion, and we'll leave it open for discussion. All right, I can be quiet now. Yeah. And now you can go ahead with your other motion.
Yeah, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Which one? The last one.
We're still in session. So there's a motion to adjourn in a second.
Yes.
Do we have a
We're adjourned.
agreement? Okay, I just want to clarify that before we move on.
Yeah.
All right, we're adjourned then. I will close the meeting online and close the meeting here. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
So.
Was there something about